वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। भूरिनि भूरि कर्माणि श्रोतव्यानि विभागशः। अतः साधो अत्र यत् सारं समुद्धृत्य मनीषया ब्रूहि भद्राय भूतानां येनात्मा सुप्रसीदति.
There are many varieties of scriptures, and in all of them there are many prescribed duties, which can be learned only after many years of study in their various divisions. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all these scriptures and explain it for the good of all living beings, that by such instruction their hearts may be fully satisfied.
Text 12. जानासि भद्रं ते भगवान् सात्वतां पतिः देवक्यां वासुदेवस्य जातो यस्य चिकीर्षया.
All blessings upon you, O Shuta Goswami. You know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva.
Text 13. तन्नः शुश्रूषमाणानाम् अर्हसि अङ्गानुवर्णितं यस्यावतारो भूतानां क्षेमाय च भवाय च.
O Shuta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters, acharyas, for one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them.
आपन्नः संस्मृतिं घोरां यन्नाम विवासो गृह्णान् ततः सद्यो विमुच्येत यद्बिभेति स्वयं भयम्.
Living beings who are entangled in the complicated messes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified.
Text 15. यत्पादसंश्रयाः सुत मनया प्रसमायनः सद्या पुनन्ति उपास्पृष्टाः स्वधुन्यापोदनु सेवया.
O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the waters of the Ganges can sanctify only after prolonged use.
Text 16. को वा भगवतस्तस्य पुण्यश्लोकेद्य कर्मणः शुद्धिकामो न शृणुयात् यशः कलेमलापहम्.
Who is there desiring deliverance from the voices of the age of quarrel? Who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord?
Text 17. तस्य कर्माण्य उदाराणि परे गीतानि सुरेभिः ब्रूहिणा श्रद्धादानानां लीलया दधता कलः.
His transcendental acts are magnificent and glorious, gracious, and great learned sages like Narada sing of them. Please, therefore, speak to us who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations.
Text 18. अथाख्या हि हरिर्धीमनः अवतार कथा शुभाः लीला विदता स्वैरम् ईश्वरास्यात्मा मायया.
O wise Shuta, please narrate to us the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme God's multi-incarnations, such auspicious adventures and pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Controller, are performed by his internal powers.
19. वयं तु न वित्रप्याम उत्तम श्लोकविक्रमे यच्छृण्वतां रसज्ञानां स्वादु स्वादु पदे पदे.
We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him, relishing hearing of his pastimes at every moment.
Text 20. कृतवान् किल कर्माणि सह रामेण केशवः अतिमत्यानि भगवान् गूढः कपटमानुषः.
Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balarama, played like a human being, and so must he perform many superhuman acts.
Text 21. कलिम् आगतम् आज्ञाय क्षेत्रेऽस्मिन् वैष्णवे वयम् आसेन दीर्घसत्रेण कथायां सक्षणा हरेः.
Knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead and in this way perform sacrifice.
Text 22. त्वं नः सन्दर्शितो धात्रा दुस्तरामं निश्चितिर्सतां कलिं सत्त्वहरं पुंसां कर्णधारा इवार्णवाम्.
We think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being.
Text 23. ब्रूहि योगेश्वरे कृष्णे ब्रह्मण्ये धर्मवर्मणि स्वां कास्थाम् अधुनोपेते धर्मः कामशरणं गतः.
Since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. You recited it so beautifully at the last moment. So thank you, both Matajis. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen and then we can. So we're looking at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Text 21. Kalim Agatam Arnaya Kshetresmin Vaishnave Mayam Asina Dirgha Sakrena Kathayam Saksana Hare. So I'll read the translation and then if I can ask somebody to read the purpose, that would be lovely. Knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead, and in this way perform sacrifice. So, can I ask if anyone would like to read the purport, please?
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, please, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. The age of Kali is not at all suitable for self-realization, as was Satya Yuga, the golden age, or Treta or Dwapar Yuga, the silver and copper ages. For self-realization, the people in Satyug living a lifetime of 100,000 years were able to perform prolonged meditation. In the Treta Yuga, when the duration of life was 10,000
see
years,
something never experienced or heard of in
self-realization
this life. But all these incidents have been experienced at different times, in different places, and in different conditions. The mind of the living entity continues to exist in various.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Is it I'm reading or someone else?
No, Seema Mataji, you continue. Sorry, I think somebody had unmuted.
Right. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah. And in Treta Yuga, when the duration of life was 10,000 years, self-realization was attained by performance of great sacrifice. And in the Dwapar Yuga, when the duration of life was 1,000 years, self-realization was attained by worship of the Lord. But in the Kali Yuga, the maximum duration of life being 100 years only, and that combined with various difficulties, the recommended process of self-realization is that of hearing and chanting of the holy name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord. The sages of Namisharanya began this process in a place meant specifically for the devotees of the Lord. They prepared themselves to hear the pastimes of the Lord over a period of 1,000 years. By the example of these sages, one should learn that regular hearing and recitation of the Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. Other attempts are simply a waste of time, for they do not give any tangible results. Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached this system by Bhagavatam Dharma, and he recommended that all those who were born in India should take the responsibility of broadcasting the message of Lord Shri Krishna, primarily the message of Bhagavad Gita. And when one is well established in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, he can take up the study of Srimad Bhagavatam for further enlightenment of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you, Seema Mataji, for reading. So we'll just start with the prayers and then we'll continue. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadavayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudhapata Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Satrachatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Sapta Kanchan Goranti Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Vancha Kalpatarayascha Kripa Sindhu Vyaya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nashtakayeshu Patrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtake. Hare Krishna everyone, and thank you so much for allowing me to come and discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Amala Purana with you all. So it's so lovely to see you all and very inspiring. So we will discuss this verse 21. So before we do that, just a recap on the Canto 1, Chapter 1. So we've already seen that text 1 to 3, we saw the definition of the absolute truth and glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then text 4 to 8, the sages glorify Sutta Goswami and they set the scene for what is to come. And then text 9 to 23, the sages describe Kali Yuga and also they ask the 6 questions. So, sorry, I'm just gonna mute. Okay, so we start with, in this verse, it talks about Kali Yuga. So we'll just go back a little bit and in the Mahabharata and look at what had started happening. So, and in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we will come to that in chapter 14. So once the Kurukshetra war had finished, after some time, so Lord Krishna stayed, and then he departed for Dwarka. And then soon after, sorry, Hare Krishna, can I ask everyone to just stay on mute, please? Thank you. Okay, so after a little time, Arjuna actually went to see Lord Krishna to ask him what his next program was. While the Lord was on this earth, everything was really, really prosperous, and it was really illuminated, and there was like a flood of light on this earth, and there was peace, prosperity, knowledge. All the people were following religion, so everything was going really, really well. Now Arjuna had gone, and for 7 months he hadn't returned. So Maharaj Yudhishthir he started worrying. He was wondering what has happened. Why is Arjuna not come back? So, and then he started observing bad omens happening. So he saw that the eternal direction of time, there were changes in that, the seasons had changed, you could sense that, the seasons were not working according to how they would normally work. And people were changing, their characteristics were changing, people were becoming more greedy, angry, deceitful, being hypocritical. So he was noticing all these things. And, people were not following their prescribed duty according to the Varnashram system. So the Brahmanas were not actually doing what they needed to do. Kshatriyas were not doing what they were needed to do. He could sense that there was a breakdown in relationship between husband and wife, parents and children, amongst friends. There were, all sorts of things were happening. So he actually started suspecting that the Lord had left this planet and gone back to his spiritual abode. And then he himself had some symptoms. So he said that his left side of his body, his thigh, his arms, his eye, they were quivering, and the she jackals were crying as when the sun was rising, and vomiting fire. The dogs were barking fearlessly. So all these signs were happening, and this was a sign. So in Canto 1 of 114:21, he says, I'll just read what he says. I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate that some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. These signs indicate that this will no longer be. So, he was really thinking that Lord Krishna had left to go back to Goloka, to spiritual world. And Arjuna comes back, and it is confirmed that the Lord has left. Now, the very day that the Lord left, Kali appeared, partially appeared to manifest on this material world. So a little while after Lord Krishna left, the Pandava brothers left as well. So they, departed, and Maharaj Parikshit became the emperor of the world. And, we see later on in the Srimad Bhagavatam that it talks about this, that once Maharaj Parikshit was going around the world, and he saw the master of Kali as a Sudra dressed in black, and he was hurting a cow in a bull. And, so this was the sign of all the quarrel in the world going on. So, Kali Yuga started then. And I've heard in a class as well that, Maharaj Parikshit, we all know the story. He was cursed by the Brahmana's son. And, it was discussed that because Kali Yuga has started, this Brahmana's son cursed Maharaj Parikshit like this. Otherwise, the Brahmanas are supposed to be tolerant, and, they wouldn't do something like that. So this was also a sign that Kali Yuga had started. Now we see in this text that the purport that Srila Prabhupada also talks about this different yugas. So we see that this yuga, Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada says that it is not suitable at all for self-realization compared to the other yugas. So the other yugas are Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. So there's 4 yugas, and they just repeat like the seasons repeat. And 1,000 of these cycles of the yugas make 1 day of Brahma, and then another 1,000, they make 1 night of Brahma. So it starts with Satyuga, and Satyuga is actually called the golden age. And in this golden age is the best time for self-realization. So all the people in Satyuga were engaged in self-realization. They understood that this is the goal. This is the goal of their life. And, you know, for human life, self-realization, you know, this is what we are here for. And, you know, even rishis like Valmiki Rishi in Satyuga, on the instruction of Narad Muni, he actually meditated for 60,000 years. And so this was like the best age to meditate. And, you know, the environment was really peaceful. There was, you know, nature was, you know, everywhere. It was the natural way of people, you know, that they could meditate and they could live in a peaceful way this way. And they didn't live a peaceful life, sinful life at all. So, you know, they were not doing sinful activities. So it was a really good age for self-realization. And then after that came Treta Yuga. So Treta Yuga, as Srila Prabhupada says, is the silver yuga. So it's a silver age. And this lasted for about 100,000, so a lakh to 10,000. So, you know, the lifespan, so it reduced to 10,000. So people couldn't meditate for a long time like they did in the Satyuga. And so then the prescribed method of self-realization became performing great sacrifices. So the kings, the sages, the saintly people, they would collectively, they would get together and they would, you know, do sacrifices. So this was the way of spiritual advancement and to achieve self-realization. And now we see that in that yuga, 25% of the population would, you know, would engage in sinful activities. You know, when we say sinful activities, it's not as sinful as Kali Yuga, but, you know, we already started to see that 25% of people were engaging in this. And then after that came Dwarpa Yuga, and this is called the Copper Age. And, you know, and in this age, you know, people's lifespan was about 1,000 years. And it was said that self-realization could be achieved by temple worship. So the deity of Krishna could be worshipped in the temple. And by now, 50% of the population was sinful. So, you know, virtue, pious activities and things like that were reducing now. And then we obviously come to Kali Yuga. And they say that in Kali Yuga, when Kali Yuga started, 75% of the population was sinful. And the lifespan, they say, is roughly 100 years. But we see even now that hardly anyone gets to 100 years. You know, in this country, they get a letter from the Queen to celebrate, you know, their 100 years. But this is really rare. And, you know, as Kali Yuga progresses, it's said that even 20 years of age will be like uncommon, like 100 years is now. So, you know, a 20-year person will be considered really, really old as it progresses. So, sinful activities in the Kali Yuga is said to increase. And this is the most unsuitable time for self-realization. And scriptures actually advise that none of the other methods that were used in Satyuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwarpa Yuga will actually be, you know, appropriate for this Kali Yuga. And it says that in our scriptures, it says that this 10,000 years is the golden period, Lord Chaitanya's golden period. But it will it will all sort of deteriorate, and there will be devotees till the end, but not that many. So the number of devotees will also deteriorate. So, a huge description is given in the 12th canto of the Kali Yuga. And so in this yuga, the recommended method is hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. So, we should hear and chant the glories of the Lord, his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes. So that is the way of self-realization in this yuga. So that is why we see now in this text that the sages of Naimisharanya, they knew that Kali Yuga has begun. So they already accepted this process, and they started this process of hearing and chanting. And they were doing it in this place called Naimisharanya, because this is a place, it's a holy place which is suitable for Vaishnavas to, to chant and hear and do spiritual activities. So, it's a bit like when you want to engage in spiritual activities, the environment where you are also has an impact. Like, for example, when we want to chant sometimes, we might be chanting outside or in the harbor, and there might be distractions around us. But, we find that when we go to the temple, we can focus a little bit more. Or, I like chanting in Srila Prabhupada's room at the manor. I feel that, that really helps me to chant attentively. So actually the place where these activities take place are really important as well, because they help us to focus. So, so in this yuga, it is said that, this is the only method. And I also wanted to share a verse, so from the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.10. So in here it says, I recited, so prayena alpa ayusha sakyaya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matalo manda pradya hi uparvita. So it says, "O learned one, in this iron age of Kali," so the Kali is iron age, almost always, men almost always have short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So, in this age, most people are disturbed, and we see this, don't we, that there is always some problem going on in this yuga, and people are disturbed. And we see in our recent past that we've had this COVID, pandemic, and people have been disturbed by that, and we feel that, okay, maybe we are coming out of that situation. It's now sort of in control. I wouldn't say COVID's gone yet, but it's not as bad as it was. And then now we've got this war that has started in Ukraine. So always in Kali Yuga, there are always issues. However, it's not all doom and gloom. You'll be pleased to know. Before I go into that, so these are also the symptoms of Kali Yuga that I've got on the PowerPoint. So illicit connection with women, indulgence in meat eating, encouraging intoxicating habits, pleasure in gambling excursions. So these are all the roots of root causes of quarrel. So Kali Yuga is, we say that the yuga of quarrel and hypocrisy. And, I don't know if you might have noticed that these symptoms of Kali Yuga, actually, these are the principles that we follow. So, we also chant, but we also follow principles that we should not do any of these. So, it helps us in our self-realization. But there is hope. So the good news is that in Kali Yuga, it's not all doom and gloom. There is hope in this fallen age as well. So the Supreme Lord has given some facilities to us, I'm not going to go into all of them, but just to mention a couple, that in the other yugas, if you even thought of a sinful activity, you would get seen. But in Kali Yuga, you don't get seen if you think of a activity that is not good. But if you actually perform that activity, then you will incur sin. So in Kali Yuga, at least we've got that, because our thoughts, they go everywhere, especially when you're chanting. So, and results are awarded just by thinking of pious acts. So, we are very fortunate that, we can just think of something, a nice, pious act, and, we are rewarded for it. And, so we can actually do Manasa Seva as well. So, we can meditate. We can meditate on the Supreme Lord, the beauty of Krishna. We can meditate on the dhams, Vrindavan, Mayapur. Recently during the pandemic, we've not been able to go. So, it's brilliant that we can at least meditate on the dhams. So, it's brilliant that we can do that. And then one of the best things in this yuga, which gives us hope, is the salvation by simply chanting the holy names of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya came and he has introduced this Sankirtan, and where people can openly chant and preach and get others to chant on the streets everywhere. And we are very lucky that Srila Prabhupada has followed in that footstep and brought it to the Western world as well. So I've got the verse here from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Hare Nama, if Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nashte, Eva Nashte, Eva Gatir Anyata. So in this age of Kali, this is the only way that we can get rid of anything sinful, anything, disadvantageous towards our spiritual progress, just by chanting the holy names of Krishna, because Krishna and his holy name are same. There's no difference between them. So this is the only way that we can do, by Hari Kirtana. So Hari Kirtana is chanting, but it's also reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. So the sages had gathered, and they gathered to listen. And just listening, and which is what you are all doing every day, is so important in this age. And before we started, we chanted the verse Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. So I just wanted to read the translation for that verse. So it says, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. And in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada says, here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. So, so this is really, really important that we listen to Harikatha and we recite the Harikatha. So I just wanted to share a story in this connection. This story, for the first time, I heard it from Amendra Prabhu in a class he was giving, and I'd never heard this story before. So this story is about a Brahmana whose name was Atmadev, and he was a very, very pious Brahmana. He did all his pujas properly. He was really a perfect character. He was such a nice character, such a nice person. And he had a wife, and his wife's name was Dunduli. Now, Dunduli was the opposite of Atmadev. So her character was not as good as his. So, she would do crooked things. She wouldn't she wouldn't talk to people nicely. And she had a different character to him totally. So, but somehow they lived together okay, and he managed to, survive with this, his wife. But they had one problem, they didn't have a child. So Atmadev was not happy. He felt that he needs a son. He needs a son to do his shraddha once he passes from this world. So one day he meets a sadhu, and they get to talking, and then he says to the sadhu that there is one thing that really troubles me, that I don't have a son. I don't have a son to do my shraddha ceremony. So then the sadhu tries to make him understand that it's okay, you just focus on the Lord, and it will okay. But this Brahmana, he really wanted a son. So then this sadhu says to him, okay, I can help you. So what I can do is I will give you this fruit, give it to your wife, and your wife will have a child. So then Atmadev was happy. So he took the fruit and he gave it to his wife Dunduli. And he said that eat this fruit and we will have a child. Now Dunduli, like I said, had a very different characteristic. So she did not want a child because she felt that her body shape would, be lost. She was thinking that, why do I want a child? I don't want to look after a child really. It's all going to be a big bother for me. I really don't want to do this. But then she thought that, well, now he's got this fruit for me and I can't upset my husband. What do I do? What do I do? So then she had a sister, and she started talking to her sister and said that I really don't want to do this, but I don't want to upset my husband either. What do I do? So her sister, her sister then came up with an idea. So she said that, okay, so this Brahmana and Dunduli, they were very well off, and the sister and her husband, they were quite sinful as well. So then she thought that, well, my sister Dunduli, she has a lot of money. So she came up with this idea and said to Dunduli that, what I can do is, I'm expecting a baby. I can give my baby to you. I can tell everyone that I had a miscarriage and I won't leave my house. And I'll just say to everyone, I'm so upset that I don't want to leave my house. So nobody will see me. And then when I have the baby, I'll give the baby to you and you give me money. So then Dunduli thought, yeah, this is a brilliant idea. Okay, let's do this. So then they carried this out. So then her sister told everyone that, oh, I've had a miscarriage and I'm so upset, and she wouldn't go out anywhere so people wouldn't see her. And she said that, I just don't feel like going out. And then soon after, she gave birth to a son. And then immediately she gave the son to Dunduli. So Dunduli then, and previous to that, sorry, going back, the fruit that Dunduli had been given, she didn't know what to do with it. So she just threw it on the floor and a cow came and ate the fruit. So now Dunduli takes her sister's son and says to Atmadev that here you go, now you got a son. So they name this this baby Dundukari. So they named the baby, and so they now got a son, and he starts growing up. In the meantime, the cow who had eaten the fruit also has a baby, but it's not a cow baby. So the baby looks like a human, but it's got ears that look like cows. So, then her son is now called Gokarna. So Go means cow, Karna means ears like cows. So Gokarna. So now both these children are roughly born in the same time. So the sister's son obviously was born before this cow's child. So they sort of grow up together. And so Dundukari, who is the sister's son who had been given to Dunduli, was very sinful, just like his parents. So he would do really, really, really bad things. Even as a child, he would be very naughty and he would do sinful activities. And as they grew, he carried on with this. And on the other hand, the cow's son, Gokarna, was a very, very pious character, and he was such a lovely person. And he didn't do any sinful activities. So, this carried on and they both grew up. Now, when they grew up, Dandukari, he carried on with his sinful activities. So he actually was not following any of the regulative principles. So he was living with prostitutes, he was doing sinful activities. For him, stealing was nothing. He would steal, he would do all sorts of really, really bad activities. And on the other hand, Gokarna was such a pious character. So then what happened one day was that because Dundukari was doing all these sinful activities, the prostitutes he was living with were thinking that sooner or later the king is going to send his guards and this Dundukari is going to get arrested and the king might even kill him for all these sinful activities he's committing. But because we live with him, we'll get implicated and they might actually arrest us as well. So the best thing we can do is let's just kill him. So they decided to kill him. So what they did was, and this was really bad, what they did, they tied him up and they set him on fire. Now, so then Dundukari, he dies. Now, after he dies, Gokarna, who the pious brother was of him, born to the cow, he noticed that there was a ghost that was following him. Everywhere he went, this ghost was following him. So he was a bit curious and he said to this ghost, one day he just stopped and said to this ghost, "Who are you and why are you following me?" And then, so this ghost then talks to him and says that I am Dundukari, I am your brother. And, I am in this ghostly body because I was killed by these people. And so, I'm just now roaming around in a ghostly body, and please do something to help me. You are my brother, please do something to help me. So then Gokarna thought that, what can I do? What can I do? So then he went and spoke to other people and he found out that there is something you can do. So then Gokarna arranges, he makes preparations and arranges for this performance of yagna or whatever that needed to be done. So this was to be over 7 days. So they all sat in the puja, and but then he said that how will the ghost actually what they were going to do? We're going to talk about that in a minute. So then it was decided that they would put a bamboo shoot there, and this ghost would go into the bamboo shoot. And through the bamboo shoot, the ghost would take part in whatever they were going to perform. So they all set for the puja, and so this was to go on for 7 days. Now, on the bamboo shoot, there were 7 knots. And so, the sages said that actually this performance, if somebody does wholeheartedly and, they really, really focus and they do it day and night for 7 days, all their sinful activities will go and they will actually be liberated. So they said, and actually the activity that they were doing is they were listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam for 7 days. So on each day, because, Dundukari now was desperate to get out of this ghostly existence. He was very, very, very focused and, really listening, and, he was there. So each day there was a knot on the bamboo shoot, and each day the knot would untie. And like that, the 7 days carried on. They were all listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. And on the 7th day, the last knot untied, and Dundukari actually got liberation. So then, Gokarna and the other people who were also sitting there were wondering that how comes that this Dundukari, he got liberated, but we are still here. Why did we not get liberated? And the difference here was that because Dundukari was desperate, he was really desperate. So he was focusing, total focus, listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam, whereas the others were listening, but they were not as focused as him. So the moral of this story is that Srimad Bhagavatam, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam is so important, and that's the only way of self-realization. So like even a sinful person like Dundukari managed to get liberation. So so in this, like I said, in this age, fallen age of Kali, we have been given hope through Kirtan. One is by chanting the holy names, and the other one is listening and reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is the Lord himself. He's come in the form of a scripture, of a book. And, if we listen and recite it fully focused, like Dundukari was, definitely, we will make it back as well to Godhead. So just wanted to share that story of how powerful it is. And there are so many other stories like that of how powerful listening to the Srimad Bhagavatam is. So yes, we might be in this age of Kali, and things might not be going well. It is an age of quarrel and hypocrisy and miseries. But, we are very, very lucky at the same time that the Lord came, Lord Chaitanya came, and he's given us these beautiful gifts that we can take advantage of. And on that note, I'm going to stop here. It is now, I think, it's 4:45. So I'll open it up, or if anyone would like to add to whatever I've said, or make any corrections or any reflections you have or questions. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for a lovely class and a lovely story of Atmadev and Dandukani. It forms part of the Gita Mahatma, actually, this story, and the emphasis you brought is very important. The focus we must have and the greed with which we must listen to Bhagavatam is so important. I think we can listen to it unintentionally and we do not get the benefit, but if we listen to it with full attention and focus, we will certainly get the benefit. So thank you for bringing that up. And it's a lovely story. It's quite a complicated story, I know, but thank you for that. If I may just point out a little clarification you need to make. I think you mentioned the day of Brahma is 1,000 yuga cycles, 14 manvantaras, and you mentioned night is also the same. Actually, night, there's no yoga cycle in the night. There's a full annihilation at the end of the day of Brahma, and there's no creation during the night.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You again, these are lovely class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for an excellent class. Lots of information taken down. Very nice points. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we can stop here. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And please do forgive me for any mistakes that I might have made. Vanchakapatudhyascha kripasindhubhyo
Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnava. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you for a nice class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.